Okay, we will start. We'll start with the next topic, that is social mobility. Okay, so far we have discussed about the concepts of differences, and then we have discussed about inequality, and then we have discussed about stratification. Okay, guys, some small topics are there like exclusion, hierarchy, etc. That I will be uploading. It is there in the application. You can see that videos. So it is just like 5-10 minute explanation I have done. And with this knowledge, that will be very easy for you. Generally, I won't take that in the class. These are very small, minor topics. Okay, so here, what we have done is we have understood what is stratification, and this is the most important part in this particular chapter. So I'm expecting that this part is very clear to you. What are differences, how differences become inequality, and how we understand inequality in terms of stratification. So differences, when you attach certain values, now I'm not explaining what are the values and everything, it becomes inequality. So sex means it's a difference, but when we say gender, there is an element of inequality. Okay, and then if you can see some pattern, right, some people, some sections of people are getting some privileges, some sections of people are getting some disabilities, then that is what you can understand as pattern. So when the pattern is found, then that is what stratification. So guys, please turn off your mic, please. Ashmita, can you turn off your mic, please? Yeah, so please remember, guys, please turn off your mic. Okay, so I hope this part is clear to all of you, and this is the most important and the technical part of this particular chapter. And then we have discussed about certain steps. That steps are nothing but what we have discussed here only. We have discussed about differentiation, we have discussed about ranking, we have discussed about evaluation, and we have discussed about finally rewarding. Okay, now after this we have gone to the theories, and out of which we have three theories are there. Marxian theory is there, Weberian theory is there, and then Davis and Moore, or rather structural functional theories are there. So we haven't discussed about Marx theory and Weberian theory. I've told you that I will be discussing this when it comes to Marx. Next week or next to next week, we'll be starting with thinkers. So you will understand everything about that. Okay. So like upper class, lower class, middle class. Marx is mainly talking about class stratification. We will discuss about that. Weber, there is a three-dimensional stratification: class, status, power. That also we will see. Or Weber, if it is required, I'll discuss in the coming session. Not an issue. Just it is also there in the application. Just 10 minutes is required for that. Okay, but once Marx is understood, then Weber is going to be very easy. Then what we have done yesterday, we have mainly discussed about the structural functional theory. So as its name indicate, it is a functional theory. Functional theory means what? Trying to see everything in functional terms. Now, some people will say it is a functional bias. That is the critiques of functionalism. But I don't consider these as functional bias, right? They are acknowledging inequality. They are saying that inequality is required for the smooth functioning of society. So obviously, some level of inequality is required, right? Otherwise, we all cannot be, equal. Then everybody have to do the same kind of occupation, right? So that is not possible. The society cannot survive. So if the society need to survive, some level of inequality is required. Rich and poor is required. So if you see, if you think their perspective, their approaches, what they are thinking is, they're saying that the society is maintaining this. Now, yeah, does functional perspective include dysfunctional aspect? As of now, when we talk about functionalism, we are not going to discuss about dysfunctions. But when it comes to Marx, we will talk about dysfunctions. That is a conflict perspective, that is opposite. But when we discuss about structural functionalism, as of now, there is no dysfunction. But later, after Parsons' time, you will study when we discuss about Parson. Parson have taken functionalism to its conclusion, logical conclusion, by giving a proposing a grand theory. You will study in Parson. So the after Parson, the functionalists who are coming, for example, Merton, he's actually understood as founding father of neo-functionalism. That name itself will tell you there's a new type of functionalism. Okay, now in this new type of functionalism, they will introduce the element of dysfunction also. So we will be discussing about all these in thinkers. But as of now, what you need to know is when we talk about functionalism and when we are talking about functional theory, I have never mentioned any dysfunction within that. I've never mentioned any dysfunctions in inequality or anything. We are trying to see everything in functional terms. But there are some modified or neo-functionalist that we need to, I'm going in that order. So you don't want to worry at this level. You just need to know this only. This is what functionalism, trying to see things in functional terms. That's enough for you guys. You don't want to get into that aspects. Now, when we discuss about Marx, only dysfunction. Here, only functions. But when it comes to Merton, neo-functionalism, that is a modified functionalism. There, you will see both functions as well as the dysfunctions. In fact, they will talk about manifest function, latent functions. Functions can be seen, functions even cannot be seen, everything. So some of you have already attended thinker session, so you know that. Some of you are not attended, uh, so you don't know. We will be doing that, okay? So don't worry about that. At this juncture, at this time, what you need to know is we are only talking about functional terms. Okay, so inequality is considered functional, right? So, and we have discussed about the theories. What are the theory? We have talked about Talcott-Parsons theory. I'm not going to explain that. You know theory. And then we have discussed about Davis and Moore, and we have discussed about W.L. Warner. Okay, so any one of you want further clarification in that theory or any more discussion is required, you can tell me. I can spend another 5 minutes if it is required. If not, we'll go to social mobility. Okay, that's good. So I hope all of you understood. And these are very simple theories. Okay. Okay, so we will move to the next topic. Now, guys, get this book, Essential Sociology, because everything we are covering, in case if we are missing out some minor topics, just like I've told you, as a go-to book, you can use this. And in some topics, if you need to add some thinkers, you will get it ready-made. Okay, but that book alone is not enough. You cannot prepare with that book, and that is not sufficient also. And it will be good for you when you're reading that book. The reason is both me and that person attended the classes of the same teacher, and our teachers are same. So you will get the same, and if you follow our class and our notes, you will get that all the dots getting connected. Otherwise, as a fresher, if you read that book, you may not understand things. But once you attend the classes and once you come, supplement it with our class, it will be very easy for you, and you will understand what is relevant, what is not relevant. For thinkers and all, you don't want to refer that, but some minor topics to add some value to what we are discussing, you can use it as a go-to book. Apart from that, I will also recommend you to buy this Wajiram handwritten notes. All of you should keep this along with you, because even during my preparation time also, I used to refer that. So some that attachment is there with that material, and it is really good for some topics, especially in paper 2. Okay, so we will be very specific, and will be you can understand, you can see from the notes that I'm providing, it will be every topic I'm giving specific to the exam, 300 to 400 words. So if you need to have more, for example, emergence of sociology, I've given you 350 words or something like that, maybe 3 pages. But if you see Wajiram notes, it will be like 40 pages. So much of things and dimensions I've covered, and it is impossible for us to do that in an online program like this. So I'm expecting that you can understand that limitation, but I'll make you to that level where you will be able to understand the concepts easily and the syllabus will be covered properly. But some additional information, as a good student, always it is recommended and you have to follow that. Okay, so get it. Anyone, Vajiram or Rubendra, these are the two which are supposed to be the good in India. So any one of those will be fine. Some of you have already attended the classes of Mahapadra sir sitting here, but still, okay, others just follow any one of that. I'm not saying specific one. I have some attachment with Vajiram notes. That's the reason why I'm saying Vajiram. If not Vajiram or Upendra, any one of this will be fine for you. Okay, along with that, Harlem-Bose is a must one. Okay, essential sociology is also required. Harlem-Bose, a few chapters I'll tell you when to read. Especially you can go through stratification, you can read that. So you will get some more better understanding. Okay. And essential sociology, if you're not reading Harlem-Bose, essential sociology, the contents are mainly from Harlem-Bose itself. So that will also be fine. Okay, so these are things which you need to keep in mind and which has to be there with you. You have to follow all these along with the classes. So let's get started with today's session. We will be discussing about social mobility. So now what do you mean by this social mobility? So social mobility, any question which they're going to ask related to mobility, first thing that you need to write is about stratification. Without writing stratification, you cannot write about mobility. Why mobility is there? Mobility means what? Movement from one strata to other. So if these stratas are not there, is there any scope of studying mobility? No, right? So whenever mobility is asked, you need to talk about stratification in one or two lines. So that is one thing. So just because stratification and stratas are there, upward or downward mobility is there. Mobility means movement. It can be upward mobility, it can be downward mobility. Okay. Now, upward mobility means what? You born as a poor person, you becoming rich. This is upward mobility. Okay. And then you born as a rich person, you becoming poor. That is a downward mobility. So this is a simple term in which you can understand that there are different dimensions of mobility. This is what vertical mobility, going this way, this is vertical mobility. There can be horizontal mobility also, but this is not sociologically important, like transfers. You are a superintendent of police here in this district, you will be transferred to another district as superintendent of police. The position has not changed, but the location has only changed. This is geographical in nature. This is horizontal, not important for us. But you are a sub inspector and you are promoted as superintendent of police, and then you are promoted as dig, and then you are promoted as dgp. This is what we are understanding as upward vertical mobility, and we are more concerned and interested in vertical mobility. That is what we are talking about. Stratas, we are discussing about stratification. So here there is no strata in horizontal, right? In vertical only we are talking about stratas and stratification. So we are concerned in vertical mobility, and there are different types of vertical mobility. That can be the question. So they will ask you, what are the different types of vertical mobility? What are the sources? How can you achieve mobility? For example, you get better education, you are attending this class, you get better education, then you can get the job, you can get mobility, right? Getting job is another way. Even getting married to a rich woman or a rich man is another option, right? So there are different avenues or sources to get mobility. So they can ask you this, but even then all these are there. There are some hindrances also. Okay, now are we all able to get education and becoming IAS officer, IPS officer, or getting mobility? No, there are many things which are acting as the hindrance. What are they? Mainly the parental background, right? Your if your parents are rich, if they have money, you will get better education from better schools and better college and better coaching and trainers and mentors and everything you will get. Okay, so that is what you mean by hindrances, practical hindrances. It can be poverty, it can be anything. Okay, so these are the points or the topics that we are going to cover here. We will discuss about the types, sources, and then mainly the hindrances. So when you discuss about types, there are different types. Okay. I'll go through the PDF and then we'll discuss. Okay. Social mobility can be broadly defined as change in the position of an individual or group in the society. Specifically in the context of stratification, obviously it will be in the context of stratification only. It refers to movement of an individual or group from one strata to another, means lower class to upper class or to middle class. This movement. It can be this movement also, right? You're a rich person, your business fail, you becoming lower class. You are a middle class, you did some good business and become successful, then becoming upper class, like that. The study of social mobility is important for the light of following reasons. Studying the nature of social mobility helps us in understanding the nature of social inequalities present in society, right? So when you're studying social mobility means we can automatically understand stratification and inequality. Thus, indirectly, in order to understand the stratifications setup, it is necessary to understand the pattern of social mobility. In this context, if the mobility is less, the system is considered closed. You remember this? If the movement is not possible, what is that system? Closed system. And if it is more, what does that mean? Open system. So class is an open system. Why? Because you can born in a lower class, you can become an upper class easily. Caste is a closed system. Also, you can understand the nature of society. How? If it is less. What kind of society is this? Traditional or modern? Hmm? If it is more, which society, in traditional society or modern society, the chances of mobility is more? People are getting richer faster in traditional or modern society. Modern society today, a poor person tomorrow is becoming rich, right? He something will get clicked and you will become rich. Today in the modern society, the avenues are maximum, right? Even in the corona time also, people are doing something or the other and people are getting rich, right? See how this Byju's and all these, all of a sudden they are getting becoming super rich, billionaires. So more avenues are there in the modern society. So more avenues means it indicate modern society. So you can understand the it is coming here. Sorry. Yeah, social mobility also reflect the process of change in society. Ever increasing avenues of mobility in a particular society indicate the existence of more dynamic society. This concept has also been used to know the nature of whole society as well. Less number of avenues indicate towards a traditional society, whereas more avenues indicate a modern society. In this context, social mobility is considered as an integral dimension of the process of modernization. What do you mean by this sentence? Integral dimension of the process of, if the society is getting modernized, if the society is moving to traditional, from traditional to modern, what has to happen? There should be more and more and more avenues of mobility. Okay, so this paragraph you can read some example I have added. Now we will move further. So that's about the introduction. Now from that, if the question is asked, hardly you need to write 30-40 words, not beyond that. Okay, so take the most important ones from that. Now the types of mobility, as I've told you, there are two types based on the direction of movement. Vertical, if the movement is like this. Horizontal, if the movement is like this. This is what promotions and all, this is what transfers, for example. Okay, so vertical movement from one strata to another, it can be upward and downward. Promotions, business fail. Okay, so for example, land reform is upward or downward? Upward or downward? Can anyone tell me? Both, right? Because those peasants, the landless who got the land, what they experienced? They experienced upward vertical mobility. Those landlords who lost the land, they experienced downward mobility. The Brahmins, they lost the land. And if you see in Kerala, most of the Brahmins later, after land reforms, their situation became pathetic. So that was a very, you know, bad situation for them. So this is movement within the same strata. Horizontal mobility is more geographical in nature, and in terms of status, it is similar. I've given you the example, right? Sociologically, little relevance is there for horizontal mobility. Now we will discuss about types of mobility. Mainly this two we will discuss now: intergenerational and intragenerational. So this is very easy. Intergenerational means between generation. Intra means within the same, within your own lifetime. Inter college festival, right? What do you mean by that? Two colleges. That this, what do you mean by intergenerational? Two generation, like father and son. Now this can be upward and downward. What is the example for upward? Father is a farmer, son becoming IAS officer. This is intergenerational upward mobility. What is downward? Father is an IAS officer, son becoming a farmer. What is that? No, I'm not saying that farmer is inferior, but still, we know, we have discussed about some theory in terms of uniqueness. We can say anyway, IAS officer is superior or important position in society. Just yesterday only we have discussed that theory. Okay, so nobody want to think or talk in that way. I hope you understood, right? So son of a, or you can, instead of farmer, if you want, you can write a clerk also. Okay, so just for it between us only, I'm giving those examples, so no problem. Okay, now this is intergenerational downward, correct? Now what about intragenerational? That is what I have discussed. The business fail, right? That is intragenerational. Business fail is example for downward. Business success is generation example for upward. That is mobility that you experience in your own lifetime. Land reforms is an example. Okay, all these are example for intra, that is normal. Intergenerational refers to positional difference between two. Yeah, example is given here. Son of a clerk becoming an IAS officer. So here upward and downward that you can write, right? No confusion. Intragenerational, it is a mobility experienced by a person during his own lifetime. Land reforms. Okay. During this, poor people got the land and rich people lost their land. So this is upward and this is downward. Apart from this, other types of social mobility has also been defined to better understand the pattern in society. Absolute and relative social mobility. So I'm expecting, I hope you know about absolute poverty, relative poverty, almost the same way. Absolute means, see, let's say A and B, two people, two among you, okay, A and B, both are working as a, this is one post, this is another post, this is a third post on the basis of superiority. Both are working here. Okay, so both are at this level. Now what happened? Imagine the situation. A got promoted. Now these two are friends. A and B are friends. They are working in the same department and at the same level. Let's say you talk about, this is superintendent of police, this is inspector, and this is sub inspector. So both of them were inspectors. Okay, now A got promoted to SP. Okay, now what mobility A experience? That is absolute mobility. A experience the absolute mobility because his position have changed. So that is what absolute social mobility. But here B will experience, B nothing happened, B remained the same. B will experience a relative downward mobility because his friend got promoted. Right, this is what, when you discuss about absolute poverty and relative poverty, what is absolute poverty? Below poverty line. Relative poverty means in comparison to others, that is inequality. Similarly here, A got promoted, so A experienced absolute mobility, but without any change. B did not even change any position, but still he experienced a downward mobility. For example, you can see here absolute mobility refers to the actual change, whereas relative social mobility is judged in comparison to others. If a person experience absolute upward social mobility by gaining something, some other person experience relative downward mobility without losing anything. Even without losing anything, that person is experiencing downward mobility. I hope this is clear. Again, if you can take example, two friends A and B, both are at the same level, they are working in the same department, they are earning the same. This person won the lottery and he became a the rich person. So he did not lost anything. He is almost the same only, no upward, no downward, but he experience a feel like a downward mobility compared to this person. That is what relative. Objective and subjective social mobility. Objective mobility is measured in terms of quantitative, like this name itself will tell you, right? So it is measured in terms of quantitative criteria: income, education, occupation, etc, etc. So if your income is increased, mobility, right? Education is better qualified, then mobility, like that. Subjective means it's in terms of individuals' own perception of social mobility. It is all about the way you think. If I do this, I feel like I'm good and I'm mobile. It's all about your own. It is as it name itself will tell you, right? Objective means in terms of quantitative, this in terms of qualitative, and you can decide. You can think this is mobility and this is good for me. Okay, structural and circulation social mobility. Structural and circulation means, let's suppose this is a bank, okay, and let's say this many people are working in the bank. Now take the traditional or old scenario, much let's say 20 years back, there were no computers, nothing, so everybody have to maintain the records and every entry has to be made in the records, and you may be late in coming home. Bank employee means it was so difficult at that point of time. Okay, now what happened? Because of technological innovations, your efforts and all is actually reduced because of the changes in the structure. Okay, so then you experience a mobility here because your efforts have come down, you're getting more time, you can do many other things. This is what you mean by structural mobility. Circulation mobility means you are not part of occupational structure, but when you enter into that, you will experience a mobility. That is what occupational circulational. Okay, so structural social mobility is the mobility of people who are already part of occupational structure. So you're already part of it. Like I've told you, you're already part of the bank by virtue of change in technology. Now computers and everything has or skill, education, or new policies have come. People become socially mobile. That is what structural. On the other hand, there are people who are outside the occupational structure. When such people enter into when you get a job, that is what circulation social mobility. Now, sponsored and contested. That name itself will tell you sponsored and contested. This is open competition. You crack this exam. That is what contested mobility. Sponsored means you get some protective, discrimination, right, or reservation, etc. So that is what I mean by sponsored. Sponsored mobility is one which person acquired due to some policy or support. That is what sponsored. You're getting some push and support. Okay, for example, reservation, protective discrimination. On the other hand, contested mobility is based on open competition. Everybody will be treated equally and you're achieving that mobility. So, okay, you see this question, main question which was asked, compare social stratification and social mobility. So both are asked. We have discussed about this. What do you need to write? You talk about introduction, inequality, differences, stratification. Okay, so you can talk about stratification, differentiation, ranking, evaluation, rewarding. Then talk about social mobility. Then talk about the relation. There you talk about open system, closed system. Okay, mobility is possible in open system, not possible in closed system. And mobility is a product of stratification system and different types of mobility that we have discussed. That is how you need to answer that question. Now, sources and causes of mobility. I'll give you this paragraph which I've given to you. You can read this. I have listed out all the elements here, like different factors, talent, ability, and all these things. But yeah, here you can see. This is what I have put in paragraph over there. I have given here in bullet points. You can make it in your own paragraph, or you can just read from there also. Now, in traditional society, as I've told you, choices are limited. Most common avenues in traditional society are what? Gaining political power through wars. That is one way. Success in business, inheritance of wealth, sponsorship by the king. So the chances are very limited to get mobility in the traditional society. What about modern society? More avenues because of all these political economic systems and everything, right? Political system, you see now democratic society, everybody is equal, so representative form, contesting elections, acquiring power open to all, everybody. If you see panchayat election now, even people who are preparing for UPSC exam is also contesting the election, right? They know about panchayati raj and everything. You see age, you just need to, there are some people who are just who were waiting for 20 year and 8 months, and still they are waiting for 4 months to give the nomination, right? So that is the situation now. So it is open to all. It is no more like 60 plus people are contesting, 60 plus age people are contesting election, right? So that is a big choice now, option now. Economic system, skill based occupation. That means if you have the skill, you will survive everywhere. Okay, so expansion in occupation, increase in economic activities, vast employment opportunities in government and private. Education, again open to all, massification of education, medium of where we discussed about, no, we haven't discussed about this. What is this concept of massification of education, or when it was introduced in India for the first time? Can you tell me? Education for masses, which reform in education? Which governor general? No idea. You have no idea about history. The president of board of control, Mr. Charles, would have written a letter to the then governor general of India, Mr. Dalhousie, and it is famously known as Wood's Dispatch. And there, actually, massification of education concept is there, and that is the reason why it is known as Magna Carta of modern Indian education. Guys, you need to be very strong in your history also. Okay, just not you study optional, and if you are not clearing the prelims, then there is no point in preparing all these things. So be very strong. You have to give your priority at this point of time. Just attend the sociology classes and have one reading and focus on prelims. Hardly 6 months are there. June prelims is there. 6-7 months is there. So 6-7 months, people think that last 3 months is enough for you. But who's advising you? Three prelims not cleared, four prelims not cleared, still they think that 3 months are enough. Or some people who have cleared the prelim. See, you are asking the suggestions to two kind of people. Those who haven't cleared for 3 4 times, they will also tell you 3 4 months is enough, and till then you focus on mains. Again, what will happen? You will also not clear prelims next year, and you will also repeat it the same process. And after 2 3 years, people will ask to you, you will repeat the same thing. Other group, those who cleared the prelims, they also will tell you 3 4 months is enough. Why? Because they have the confidence. They have cleared the prelims and they have the confidence that they can do. But you don't know anything, right? And what you need to do, most of you have already attended the prelims and you know that difficulty at this point of time. So understand, even 6 months 7 months is not enough. Okay, so start your prelims preparation at this point of time itself. If you start, at this time, then you may clear prelims. Still, I will say you may clear prelims. Okay, now if you're not preparing, forget about clearing prelims. Okay, there is no point in just I've seen many people, I'll prepare for mains till February March, I'll complete sociology, I'll complete ethics, and I'll score 300 plus in sociology and 150 plus in ethics. All these you can do, guys, but only after clearing the prelims. If you're not clearing the prelims, there is no point in doing all these things. Okay, so that's very important. Okay, and many people will tell that I didn't clear prelims just because of CSAT. They think that it is a very good justification. That is actually foolish. If you are telling that you did not clear CSAT, means it's like you are acknowledging that you are the biggest fool. If you cannot get 66 marks just by reading English comprehension and some logical reasoning, and you are claiming that I've got 110 plus and 120 plus in GS, right? And I'm not able to clear CSAT, I'm not able to get 66 mark, means you are accepting, you are acknowledging that you're a fool. So let me tell you, even if you have not cleared CSAT, don't tell people. Okay, I treat like that only. It is not that you done all these things in GS. GS is something which everybody can do. If you that's a justification that people have find out these days. And I've seen many people who are saying, and even they will call me and tell me that, sir, I didn't clear prelims just because of CSAT. I tell, just get lost. Why? Then you don't deserve it. Okay, simple. Yeah. Open to all, massification, medium of acquiring skills, increased awareness, enhancement of choices. Now, technology, constant improvement in technology leading to emergence of new specialization, saving of time. Culture, modernization of see all these things, again, when we write culture, we are saying modernization of culture. Now this is giving a lot of opportunity. But when we are writing about hindrance, what we will say is still our culture is traditional, culture is not providing opportunity, culture is hindering, for example, women, hindering women to go for particular occupation. Like that, we will say the same thing, and we will change the plate accordingly. Okay, so more freedom, relaxation of rigid norms and values. After 2 minutes itself, I will reverse the same point exactly opposite to this. So we need to be very flexible in writing. We will write one thing now, and in the very next page, very next moment, we will change that. Okay, so relative freedom is there. That is a diplomatic way to answer this. Okay, so what all things I've discussed is what I've explained here, guys. Industrialization, urbanization, that is economic dimension, education, social capital. Social capital means your what is economic capital? It is money, land, etc. Social capital means your relatives, your friends, that strength, because they will be there to help you. That is also very good element when it comes to mobility, because your family itself can provide you enough support, economic support and political support and every other support also. So just read this one by one in case if you need further more clarity. Law, constitution, right? How can this give you mobility? Constitution ensures equality, so that is one dimension. Law, okay, so this you can just read. Okay, now the next is hindrances. Now we have discussed about what is mobility, what are the types of mobility, what are the choices, what are the avenues, what are the sources of mobility. We understood everything. All this education you can get, and you can get an occupation, you can do some good business, you can even marry. All these are the chances of mobility. But still, why you're not able to become rich, or you're not able to get into a big position? There are many other problems. Otherwise, everybody would have done that, right? Okay. Hindrances to social mobility. First one, poverty. There's the most important problem. So lack of resources and poor health, poor education, less choices. Illiteracy, less awareness, low skill level, restricted choices, etc. Okay. Now, cultural hindrances, cultural bias towards particular occupation. Like female are supposed to do this kind of occupation, right? That pink color jobs or the sexual division of labor, all these are there. Lack of freedom, low preference for education, stress on family values, religious restrictions, etc. Finally, psychological factors like laziness is just for the sake of writing one point, it is written here, but obviously that's a factor. Lack of information, resistance to change. Some people don't want to make change, right? Inability to accept new, like that. Yeah, laziness is a factor for sure for most of us. This also inability to accept new also is a reason. Okay, so any doubts here, guys? We will discuss if you have any doubts. Very simple topic, very simple chapter, right? But somebody was messaging me that they've gone through the syllabus and last year question paper around 100. I haven't seen that. I don't remember. I didn't calculated the number. Actually, around 100 marks was asked in the last year from stratification. So,
Hello.
hmm,
Yeah, sir, that sponsored and contestant mobility,
hmm.
just like we are giving a UPSC exam, and UPSC exam is open competition, and it is also providing reservation for a particular group. So,
Hmm.
what under what it will come, sponsored or contestant?
No, it is sponsored as well as contested for some sections. It is required. No, that is why we are referring it as protective discrimination. Okay, and
Yes.
affirmative action. This is basically to uplift some sections. So that is required. So both are there, sponsored. So if you don't have reservation, you are competing openly. So that is contested. If not, sponsored for those who are getting the reservation. Guys, I cannot turn on my camera at least today, so I'm not in a position to turn on my camera also. We'll do that later. And also, why we are not doing that is because earlier I used to do that, but it will consume my bandwidth and it will not be clear for you. At the same time, it will consume your bandwidth also. So that is the reason why I stopped this video last day also. When we turned on the camera, some of you were facing the problem. Yeah. See, hardly you are attending 1 hour class, and I don't think that you need to put so much of effort in sociology. The way we are taking it is simple, and you just need one reading, and that's enough. And maybe one answer you can write on that day. So hardly you will take 2.5 hours, and 2.5 hour to 4 hour you can spend for sociology till December, and you have to do that. Okay, and from Jan onwards, there is no point in sticking to sociology. You can see, understand one thing. The main idea that I'm taking the session is, once we complete sociology, you will be in a position to, at least you will have that confidence that we have done this and it is in our hands. This is something which will not take too much of time. Even after prelims also we can do that. So that will give you the confidence. You don't want to worry what to do in mains and all. That will give you the confidence to focus purely on prelims and somehow to clear prelims. That is the approach that you need to have. And guys, I repeatedly tell you that if you're not clearing prelims, there is no point in doing all these things. So again, even if you're not clearing mains, no problem actually, because once you cleared prelims, that confidence and motivation will be there with you. If you're not clearing prelims, and if you're clearing prelims in the first attempt, that will be really great also. Okay, so nobody will tell
So,
you people.
can we quote thinkers like M.N. Srinivas Yardesa in paper 1
Hmm,
and vice versa?
thinkers.
MN Srinivas and AR Desai, these thinkers are
You want
from
to
paper
write in
two
paper
syllabus.
one?
Yeah, can we do that?
What is the point in writing them in paper one when we have better thinkers in paper one? So much of other foreign thinkers and all these Marx and Weber and Durkheim and all
Mm,
these founding fathers are there. What is the point in writing this? Durkheim means it is a copycat of Durkheim. A.R. Desai, again the same as that of Marx. So there is no point in doing that actually. There is no
Uh,
need to. We have enough and more thinkers in paper one.
because if we write Indian thinkers, it sounds like we are writing Indian in the Indian context, right? So that's the problem.
It will be like Indian context, and that also will reflect your lack of knowledge. Also, they think that you don't know much about sociology and sociology. That's the reason why whatever you have, you're writing. There is no point in
Okay.
doing that. Actually, it is actually not required, but there may be some situation where you need to talk about MNC Universe. Some innovative concepts are there, but see, some of you may not be knowing about that, so I'm not getting into that. People will get confused. So some
Okay.
concepts like dominant caste, Sanskritization, etc., you need to write. Maybe you can do that.
Mhm. Even if they ask, write about social mobility and factors in Indian
In
regarding
social
Indian
mobility, if they
context.
ask, in social mobility, you have the possibility of writing Indian thinker, especially M.N. Srinivas, you can write the
Mm,
Sanskritization concept and dominant caste. Otherwise, there is actually no relevance and point in writing Indian thinkers in paper one. I don't think Indian thinkers you need to write in paper one.
okay, sir. Thank you.
And that is because you have so much of other thinkers and concepts are there. If you are facing poverty in thinkers and knowledge, then only you need to talk about Indian thinkers. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But whatever thinkers that we are going to do in the thinkers chapter itself, you will be in a position to write about them in all the topics. You can use them in all chapters. For example, in theory of religion, in chapter of religion, you can write all the thinkers that we are going to study. In family, you can write. In social change, you can write. Any chapter you name, we can write all these thinkers that you're going to study. You don't want to study separately also the thinkers, but obviously when it comes to that particular topics, we'll do that based on the demand of the question and the syllabus.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so see you guys tomorrow. No class, and we will meet on Monday.